Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for some of you. I would like to welcome you to our DASA Master Series webinar today. I'm going to be your host and moderator. My name is Deborah Burton, and I'm the Managing Director of the DevOps Agile Skills Association, and I'm absolutely pleased to be joined today by Niels Loder, who is going to be our guest presenter. What I want to do before I introduce Niels and actually turn the presentation over to him is just tell you a little bit about the DevOps Agile Skills Association, as some of you may be joining us for the first time. So DASA, as we like to call the DevOps Agile Skills Association, is a global initiative that was created to provide individuals, teams, organizations, a competence model and accreditation scheme for DevOps Agile skills development. We are an independent, open association. We're made up of over 74 runners. We have over 130 training partners and globally. And our objective is really to build awareness and provide thought leadership, as well as practical guidance for enterprise organizations and individuals that are looking to build high performance IT organizations through a very sound competence model. So I am very pleased that you're taking the time to learn a little bit more about the DevOps Agile Skills Association, and particularly attending this presentation, which is the need for new skills. And our guest presenter, Niels Loder, is going to actually take you through a little bit of the background on why we feel a competence model and the need for new skills is important. But before we do that, I have a couple more polls I would like to get your feedback on. So the first is very interested in understanding, and Niels, I know you're listening in on this as well, is what is your experience? Are you doing DevOps today? Are you doing Scrum? Are you more doing Lean? Are you doing all of them? Are you doing none of them? So if you can take the moment to vote, then I will be in a position. Great. I see the majority of you have voted. One more second. Okay, now's the time. Perfect. Let me share the results. So, Niels, take a look at the folks and their experiences this afternoon.
Yeah, okay. This is slightly different to this morning, but we've got a lot of people doing Lean out there. That's great. That's an interesting one, and quite a substantial group who are actually looking into DevOps, Scrum, and Lean altogether. That's interesting. At least nobody's not doing anything, and that's correct. That's the best thing.
Absolutely. So I have another poll that I would like to ask. I have a second question for our participants today. And we're also interested in understanding what domain you're working in. Are you on the operations side, the development side? Are you a part of the business? Are you doing quality assurance, or are you not doing any of that? So I see the numbers coming in. Oh, and I think you're going to be surprised, Niels, with the numbers of this session versus the one that we ran earlier. Okay, one more second. Please vote if you're going to. Excellent. I'm going to close the poll now and share the results. So take a look at this, Niels.
Wow. This morning it was more business and development, and the operations guys are in the afternoon. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is great. Well, thank you, everybody, for sharing that with us. I really appreciate you sharing some information about yourselves and what you're focusing on. So before I turn it over to Niels, I would like to just take a moment to introduce him to you, for those of you that aren't or don't know Niels. Niels Loder, he's a partner and principal consultant at Quint Wellington Redwood. And Niels, well, he's been working in the world of IT for more than 25 years. He's helped many IT organizations of all sizes to improve. He started as an ITSM process consultant, and he focused on improving the performance of IT organizations. He has been closely involved in the development of lean IT. And he's also a key member of the DASA advisory board and a member of the team creating the DASA competence model and curriculum. So Niels, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. It's nice to be here. Let's talk today about the DASA competence model. What I'd like to talk to you about is why did this DASA competence model come about? What are the forces driving the need for this competence model? And then we'll go through all the elements of the competence model, and we'll show you how it works and how you can potentially use it for your own benefit. But before we go there, I believe we have one more poll.
We do, and I'm going to launch that right now. So what we're interested in understanding are, what are you seeing as challenges in the areas of key competences? Is it that you don't have time to work on them? That you don't know which competencies to improve upon, or you don't have a clear view of the competence needed for DevOps? Or are the leaders that you have within your organizations, at this point, they're not sure of how to lead in the DevOps world? Is it a bit of some of it, or all of the above? So the votes are coming in, and I will give you one more second to get your vote in, because this is all interesting information. Okay, I'm going to now close the poll and share the results. So Niels.
Okay, where this morning we had a lot of people looking to their leaders and seeing that they are unsure of how to work in the DevOps world. We're seeing that there's the other one that was high on the agenda was C, which is that. Yeah, there's a lot of lack of clarity in terms of what kind of competencies are needed in the DevOps world, and this is exactly what we're trying to remedy with our competence model. Interestingly, some people there's quite a substantial group who have all of the above as being the valid one. It's in any case, I hope we'll have a nice set of information for you to help you gain some clarity, and also to show a bit of what leaders can do in the DevOps world. So great. I don't know whether I can create the time for you to work on competencies, though. Unfortunately, nobody has that problem.
Okay, I'm going to hide the results, and give me a second. I'm going to go back to the presentation and put it in its right spot for you. So there you go, Niels.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's so. If we look at the world of IT at the moment, I believe that we're in a situation where there's a lot changing, and what I've tried to do is look back to where other industries have transformed, and see what kind of characteristics there were there, and see whether we can learn about how we can transform our IT industry in the same kind of way. And maybe not surprisingly, I've chosen the car industry. And if you look at how things work there, in around 1880, cars started to be built, but it was all in an artisan kind of way. It was unique products created by people who knew kind of everything about building cars, or in fact they didn't know very much, and they were learning a lot the whole time. So they have this huge learning curve where 1 week they're putting together a chassis, and then the next week they're putting together another chassis, but it's 2 inches longer, and they have all kinds of problems then putting the body work on. And what you find is you're getting all these non-standard products which which are great, but which don't really provide customer value that much. We then come to like the 1920s, and we come into the phase of mass production. And what's interesting about mass production is not so much that we have standardized products rolling off a production line, which obviously we do. The key to mass production is the fact that we decompose our business into specializations where we have a lot of people looking at single parts of our way of working. And obviously we need a lot of coordination on that. The benefit is that you have a very short learning curve. You know, if you only need to do one thing in the organization, it's relatively easy to get people up to speed. Now, around 1950, we had a company called Toyota who started on this journey, which we call Toyota Production System. And really, they were looking at a different way of producing cars, and this basically fed into what we could now call lean production. And in essence, since about 1990, maybe a bit later, all car manufacturers who wish to survive really have turned to lean production methods to actually create cars. I mean, even the specialist producers like Ferrari use lean production methods, and especially the large organizations are all using lean production methods. An example of companies that didn't use lean production methods are the UK car industry, which, you know, to intents and purposes died out in a big way. So what does lean production do? Lean production focuses on the flow of value. So we're trying to understand what our customers want and making sure that value is created in a flow through our production system. And it means we need people who are specialized in certain areas, but also have a general view of what, the general understanding of what the customer wants. We try and produce this value in multidisciplinary teams, and you see that the learning curve is somewhere in between what the artisan and the mass production phase was all about. Now, let's fast forward to our IT organization, and we're looking at from the 50s till, well, I choose 1982 because that's the moment that the PC entered our world in a big way. That's really our artisan phase, where everything's just kind of being created. We're creating a lot of new things with lots of specialization in there as well, lots of different types of hardware, software being created. And from 1982 onwards, I feel that we've entered our mass production phase. And this is a phase in which we're creating specialized departments. You know, we have the server department, we have the desktop department, we have application department. We're creating a kind of technically siloed organization, really to help ourselves to understand all the complexity that is being generated by the IT industry. Based on that specialization, we're creating a lot of coordination around that. And if we look at that from an IT perspective, we're seeing that ITIL is a fabulous artifact from the mass production era. It decomposes IT into its organizational parts, into its process parts, into roles, into every little bit of IT that we need to understand. And we see this just a little bit in something like Agile. You're seeing specific roles like Scrum Masters and Product Owners being very much defined. But Agile is really based on the Lean production method. It's based on applying Lean principles to our development processes, our software development processes, and really focusing more on delivering value for the customer. So I see Agile as our first move towards that Lean production method. And really, where we are now is we're looking at DevOps as really the name that we've given to our style of lean production. Really, lean IT is something that started maybe around 2010, maybe a little bit earlier, but it's really the way we are going to be using our organizations and organizing our organizations and producing the value for our customers for the foreseeable future. Now, obviously, there will be organizations that lag behind a little bit, and there'll be others that are ahead of the curve. But really, what we're seeing now is this unstoppable transformation of an industry from mass production to lean production. And I think this is very important to keep in mind that DevOps, may feel like it's a fad word. It may feel like it's just this new gleaming thing on the horizon, but it is actually something that is here to stay in the form of lean production within IT. Okay, and because of that, we're going to be creating a new environment, and in that new environment, we will need new competencies. We will need to have a different constellation of competencies that will help us to bring this lean production within IT a lot further. What we've seen in the last couple of years, in fact, I mean, Google on DevOps related jobs, it's unbelievable how many organizations are now asking for DevOps style skills. And I reckon that within 5 to 7 years, we will have a generation of IT people who literally have never worked in a silo-based organization and who don't want to work in a silo-based organization. So there will be people out there who are often the good or even great technical people who just choose to work in a DevOps environment rather than in a technically siloed environment. And this will make it difficult for people for some organizations to actually get hold of the right people. Okay, so as you've seen, the DevOps movement, the leaning of IT has been going for all of 5 to 7 years now, and that's not long. That's not long at all. So it's normal that you don't really know, or that we as an industry don't really know what's happening, and that we're trying to define what the DevOps profession looks like. One of the things that I challenge you already to do is to take a look at the competence model. We believe that it will evolve over the years, and possibly in 3 to 5 years' time, we'll have different words, different competencies that we see as being key to making sure that our lean production actually happens. Okay, so the key question really is, which competencies do I need to actually flourish in this DevOps world? That's the question we're going to try and answer in this webinar. I'll try and go into some detail on that. So on the one hand, we have IT organizations, okay, and they're basically looking for skilled people. They're looking for people who can work in a way that delivers value to the customers, that make sure that we're doing the right things and helping our businesses to perform better. Because one thing we know is that high-performing businesses and high-performing IT organizations go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And specifically, if our IT organization is not high-performing, we will not be able to achieve high performance in our business. Okay, so on the one hand, we have our IT organizations. On the other hand, we have a supply of people who like to work in IT organizations, and they're called IT engineers. And the question is, who's going to work where? And this is one of the reasons why we created the DASA competence model was to make sure that we can match demand and supply. And you'll see at the end of the presentation that we try and create a model that we can then use to define what an engineer has to offer and what an IT organization is looking for in terms of people, in terms of competencies. Okay. And really, this goes a long way to meeting one of the or two of the goals that we're aiming to meet with DASA, and that's to really focus on knowledge and skill development in the IT industry, knowing that we need to move towards a DevOps style of working, and hopefully to give you a concrete competency framework that you can actually work with. And that actually helps people to find their place in this new world. Now, you've probably heard the term DevOps engineer. I mean, it's being used all over the place, and it seems to be something that people have difficulty defining. And it's not surprising, because I would even go so far as to say that the DevOps engineer is even a mythical beast. And I found this wonderful graphic on internet that really sums up why it's so difficult. Because there are so many different aspects of being a DevOps engineer that you could master, and you'll see that in our knowledge and skills model, that it's almost impossible for somebody to have all those skills and knowledge. So the question is, what is achievable, and how do we move forwards? Well, to start with, what we did was we looked at really the types of people that we found in IT organizations, and we subdivided them broadly into two roles. One was more, let's say, more intimately customer facing, and we call that specify and verify. And I'll go into exactly what that's all about in just a minute. And the other one is create and deliver, which is more to do with the programming, the operations, creating and actually delivering the services. Okay, so we did make this split to make sure that we have a fundamental view of what kinds of people we can find in a DevOps team. Now, we're going to be talking about competencies. And just because we've put competencies with one or other of these roles doesn't mean that they are exclusive to those roles. Obviously, you can be a create and deliver person fundamentally, but have some aspects of specify and verify in your profile. Okay, let's have a little look into these two broad roles. So specify and verify. These roles, or this is the kind of broad role which people will move into who have previously been kind of business analysts, architects, testers, functional support people who've been focused on those kind of roles within IT. We'd be challenging them to broaden their horizon to include other knowledge areas. And what they do is understand how customers use the service and translate any additional customer value they're looking for into features and stories. And also they'll be used to helping customers to actually apply the service to a business process. Now, the four knowledge areas that we've defined here are business value optimization, business analysis, architecture and design, and test specification. I'll just take you through those briefly. So business value optimization is quite an interesting one, because there's a lot of talk about how IT often doesn't know what's going on in the business. And in fact, what you find is that there are people within IT who have a very intimate knowledge of the business processes and business rules. Why? Because they've actually programmed these things. They've actually put them into systems to make them work. And this means that that sometimes IT people even have a better knowledge of the business rules than some of the business people. And this means that they can help to identify the improvements to business processes that will add value. And it's a way to ensure that we have this well-founded discussion with our business partners to ensure that they develop their processes in the right way. It's about defining the backlog of work that needs to be done by the team. It's about identifying and challenging the business to not just say, oh, well, do this change, do that change, do another change, but it's all about making sure that we're doing the right work that has the optimal value that we're looking for. Okay. The next step is that we need to have business analysis skills within our DevOps team. We need to be able to analyze business processes in a detailed way. Now, as I said earlier, we have some knowledge of business processes, and it's particularly the analysis of the information flows that we need to be able to do in a very solid way and share that with our customers, because only this way can we actually work out what kind of functionality we need, what kind of cost this should be, and create the right solution to deliver that the value that the customer is looking for. Okay, so and business analysis also helps us in one of the other tricky areas within IT, and that is estimating the impact of an improvement. So not just the impact of for the business, but also for IT in terms of how much work is this going to be and what's it going to mean to the service once the change has been created. The fourth aspect is architecture and design. Sorry, the third aspect is architecture and design. I'm getting ahead of myself here. And what this is all about is really understanding the technology stack and how it relates to the business processes. So we need an understanding of the business architecture, and then we need intimate knowledge of that technology stack to understand what the impact is of the changes that are happening. Is this really different to what we're doing today? No, not really, except what we're doing is we're asking each DevOps team to have architectural and design capabilities in the team so that there's somebody who can take care of that technology stack and the development of the technology stack on behalf of the whole organization. Where you're seeing in traditional organizations maybe a team of architects somewhere in an ivory tower, for lack of a better word. Here we're using architects in a very tactical and operational way, and linking them through to the strategic architecture of the organization. So it's all about making sure that architectural rules get integrated into our services at the lowest possible level. Last but not least in this one is test specification, and here we see techniques like test-driven development being integrated into a DevOps team to really use the power of this way of working to ensure that what we're doing is actually right for the customer. So we need to specify those tests up front to understand whether any new functionality we're creating actually meets the requirements that our customers have, and make sure that again they're getting the value that they're looking for. And this helps to steer how the people creating the new functionality or adjusted functionality need to work on it. Okay, so together these four aspects can be bundled into our specify and verify role, and we see this as a very vital set of skills that ensure that a DevOps team can talk to its customer base in a very knowledgeable way that customers can understand. Moving on to our next role, which is create and deliver. This is really the more technical role in terms of this is the place where developers, technical support people, operations engineers will end up working. And this is about actually creating the customer value through features and stories, and making sure that the service, when it's running, is configured correctly, it's sized correctly, it's working correctly, the operational activities around it are working. This is all about making sure that technically the service is okay. And what you see is we've also put security, risk, and compliance in here simply because this is where the security and compliance aspects are built into the system, into the service for the customer. Does this mean that somebody in a specify and verify kind of role doesn't need security, risk, and compliance knowledge? Well, of course they need that. Of course they need to be supported, and this is where we see that DevOps team members will be working together. But we'll come to that towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so let's have a look at these core knowledge areas. The first is programming, and what we're seeing is that in a DevOps team, programming will become a core competency, not just for people having the role of create and deliver, but really for everybody. Every person needs to be able to understand coding. And this is going to cause a major change for particularly operations people who may have done a little bit of scripting, but don't really have to deal with software coding to any major extent. So programming is really the core, because everything is becoming software driven these days. Our infrastructure is software driven, our platforms, our applications, is literally everything can be steered and defined using software these days. So where in the past we would have had developers being responsible for doing everything with code, we're now looking at an entire DevOps team that has at least basic programming skills. Continuous delivery. So continuous delivery is an important one. This is not so much just about tooling, but it's about having real knowledge of our IT delivery process all the way through from development to production. This is really a very important knowledge area because we need to have a team fully understanding which steps we need to go through to ensure that when we deliver something, it has quality built in at the source, and that each of the steps along the way ensures that we're delivering a quality product. Okay, and we do this using a pipeline, and the pipeline needs to be built in such a way that it provides us with feedback continuously on the changes we're putting through it, so that we can adjust the behavior in the team, so that we can adjust the way people actually work. So this is partly about tooling, but it's very much also about behavior within the team. And it's about making sure that everybody knows which role they're playing at which phase of the process. So that even in the situation where we have a continuous deployment pipeline where we may not have finished it yet, and we may have to deploy to production based on a manual step, we need people to understand that continuous delivery mindset so that they can act in the right way when they need to do manual steps. Infrastructure engineering, well, we talked a lot about programming and continuous delivery, and you may have a tendency to think that has a lot to do with the automation of or just creating programming, developing applications. But even in a DevOps team that's responsible for an application, we need to have infrastructure engineering skills, because people need to understand the technological environments on which their application is actually running. They need to be able to keep them standardized, consistent, and be able to refresh them easily. Now, obviously, at this point we can talk about what's happening in practice. What we see happening is that you're getting two kind of types of DevOps teams. One is focused on providing infrastructural services, particularly to infrastructure team or to application teams. And we have the application teams, which are all about providing application services to customers. And in each of those teams, there is a full life cycle of people, of knowledge, of skills in those teams. So from development all the way through to production. And within the infrastructure teams, or platform teams as we sometimes call them, we find that there's a need for creating infrastructure platforms that can be readily and easily used by the application teams. Just because we can service these through a self-service portal doesn't mean that at the application teams we don't need to understand the underlying infrastructural technology. So these are this is an area of knowledge where you'll have a differing level of knowledge in be it application teams or platform-oriented teams. Then finally, security, risk, and compliance. As I said, we've chosen to put this one in the building area, in the creation area of or creation role, simply because this is the place where we're actually building in quality at the source. Does that mean that the specify and verify people don't need to be aware of this? Well, of course they do, because they need to make sure that we're defining and designing a secure and compliant product at the beginning. The idea is that this knowledge needs to be available within the team. Okay, so as I said, a successful DevOps team will have all these 8 areas within the team, and the balance is something that you need to ensure. So you'll need to find out how many people do I need who can specify tests, how many people do I need who can define the architecture and process that properly, or design the product. Do I need one? Do I need one with a backup? Do I need 3 people to do this? These are all questions that you'll need to answer. And you'll also need to look at what level you need this knowledge. And that's where the DASA competence model will help you. And we'll get to that in a little while. Okay, but this is not all we need. We definitely need these 8 knowledge areas, but we also have a need for leadership within our organization. And leadership is we've called this a role that's got the name enable and scale. And to ensure that we can get these teams to go through the transformation in the way that we need it, we need to have people showing leadership. And leadership is basically built up of 4 aspects, and I'll go through those in a minute. Leadership is often seen as a formal thing. People higher up in the hierarchy, they're the leaders and they will show us the way. Well, in a DevOps environment, we find that there's a lot more informal leadership as well. So within the teams, we're expecting people to show leadership. We saw the 8 knowledge areas. Those knowledge areas, there will be individuals who will be able to show leadership on each of the different knowledge areas so that the team can become successful together. Now, in the end, leadership is all about coordination. It's all about making sure that the people working on a particular service can work together in the right way. And it's particularly about organizational development. What do I mean by organizational development? Well, it's all about taking a group of people who now may be not working together so coherently, and bringing them together and helping them to develop a way of working that means they can really produce more than they would as individuals. And this is really the power of teams, and this is the power of having a team supporting an IT service and helping customers to really extract value from the service that we deliver. So let's have a little look at these areas. Well, enable and scale, as I say, it's all about those in leadership role. But in fact, what we're talking about is everybody within a DevOps team. And when it comes to the hierarchy above steering the DevOps teams, these skill areas need to be very much in evidence. They need to be there. Okay, so let's go through them one at a time. The first is team building. As I said, teams, that is where our value comes from. It's where our improvements come from. It's where everything comes from in an IT organization. Well, we use the definition as described by Katzenbach Smith many years ago. It's about a small number of people, so somewhere 6, 7, 8, 9 people, really no more than 10, or preferably less than 10. We have our well-known 2 pizza rule, so you can feed the team with 2 large pizzas, then you've got the right size of team. These people have complementary skills. Well, we've seen those knowledge areas at least that need to be in there, and those skills are all complementary. And these people need to be committed to a common purpose. Now, the common purpose of a DevOps team is to provide an IT service to a clearly defined set of customers. Obviously, we have performance goals in that for that team because customers have particular expectations regarding their IT services, and our idea is to make sure that these, however many people, 7 or 8 people, hold themselves mutually responsible. So we want to move away from the situation that somebody's saying, well, you built a bad change, so there's no way I can run it properly. Or somebody saying, well, you ran the wrong script in the production environment, so it didn't work properly. Or I don't need to solve incidents, that's an operations thing. These kind of texts, we're hoping that these things will be a thing of the past as we create DevOps teams that hold themselves mutually responsible for the performance of the service. So what we're trying to do is foster openness within the team, with trust within the team, and of course ensure that there's collaboration. And one of the tools we can use for that is visual management. Anybody who's done some lean or agile will know about visual management, putting things on boards, making sure that the team all knows what's going on at any one time. So let's move on. The next is rather unimaginatively called DevOps leadership, and we've tried to look at that in terms of it's very closely related to lean leadership. As you see on the right, the standard words, go, see, ask why, show respect, are very much applicable to a DevOps environment. And really we're looking at mission command. Rather than this central command telling people what they need to do, we're looking for leaders to encourage behavior, encourage the development of effective behavior, and turning those behaviors into habits so that they don't take a lot of energy. And mission command focuses on that central purpose of the team and encourages the team to actually take responsibility for their work. So it builds on that team building skill. One of the key things with leadership is leaders need to provide feedback. Just like our DevOps pipelines, our continuous delivery pipelines are giving us feedback quickly, leadership needs to provide feedback quickly to the team. to help them to develop further. Now, the third aspect, the third skill area is continuous improvement. And really what we see, especially when DevOps teams start, is they're faced with a lot of technical debt, they're faced with a lot of things that need to happen, and they need to rapidly improve the service that they're responsible for. And when you are trying to improve something, you need to solve problems. So this is what continuous improvement is all about. It's making sure you understand the problems that you have. So see them and prioritize them, understand which ones are important, which ones are not, and then really go about solving these problems. And what we see is that oftentimes we'll create a temporary solution and we'll move on to the next thing. DevOps teams find that that there's no point creating temporary solutions for the longer term, because they will be confronted with those problems day in, day out. So they focus on solving problems permanently. And the interesting thing is that if you look at the Puppet Labs State of DevOps report, which I recommend to everybody to read, you see that DevOps teams end up having far less incidents than other teams. They end up with far less failed changes. They're able to work more quickly. Why? Because they've solved the problems that are causing waste in their processes, and they've shared lessons learned with each other so they know how to do things better. And this is something that we, from the lean practice, we call a Kaizen mindset. But this is really what continuous improvement is about. It's solving those problems every single day. And last but not least, we need to have courage. And courage is, it sounds kind of difficult, really, because it means you're going to be doing difficult things and you shouldn't be scared to do them. Well, in fact, what we're doing is we're asking teams to take small steps, to do things, to actually try things, experiment, do things in small steps, not large steps, fail fast, see what doesn't work with minimal impact to customers, and make sure that you keep taking steps. But as I say, this requires courage. It requires us to actually do things where previously we've been able to delay them, push them to one side and say, well, the other guys aren't doing their stuff, so we'll leave our bits and pieces. And one of the key artifacts here is working towards this thing called the minimum viable product. The minimum viable product is about fully understanding all that value stuff that we were talking about earlier. What is the value that the customer sees? And creating something that actually works and that the customer can actually use. And then a short time later, adding to that and producing a slightly more valuable product for the customer. Okay, and we come from a world in which our customers have defined these huge documents with all the things they want in their product, in their IT services, and what we're actually telling them now is, well, just choose one thing that you'd like us to do, or you'd like to be able to do in 2 weeks' time, and we'll create that for you. And this is a different mindset, and sometimes it's quite difficult for customers to latch on to this way of working, and this is why it's so easy to go back to an old way of working where we're defining these huge projects to carry out. And it takes courage to push back to customers and say, no, we're going to do this slightly differently now. And this brings us to the entire competence framework, and here we see the 8 knowledge areas and the 4 skill areas. And what we do is we make a kind of rose diagram and assess ourselves individually on each of these skill areas and knowledge areas. And at the same time, an individual can assess themselves. Obviously, an IT organization can look into a team where they're missing knowledge areas or skills and define a profile of somebody who would we could add to the team to create a more balanced set of knowledge and skills areas. Okay, so we're really looking for us to understand where people stand in each of these knowledge and skill areas, whether they're just starting out or whether they already have a lot of expertise. And what we've tried to do is to actually define these levels in a bit of text to give you a feel for what's actually going on or what's actually necessary in terms of these skills. So you can see a kind of extract of the model, and as I said, it's a high-level description of what knowledge, what capability you have in a particular area. So whether it's business analysis or architecture and design, we try to describe at a high level, okay, if you can do this, then you're at level 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Okay, and obviously these descriptions we're aiming to make them more and more specific and more and broader, so you can have a better feel for what your own level is. But as I said, it helps IT organizations to describe the demand that they have, and it helps IT engineers to describe what they have to offer. Okay, so this is really what I wanted to talk with you about today, and I hope it's helped you to kind of understand what skills and knowledge are necessary in a DevOps team, and that we do actually have a way to assess this and see where you stand in each of these areas.
Say if you have questions, just don't hesitate to give a shout out to myself or to Niels. We're very happy to answer any additional questions that you might have. I just want to thank you again for taking the time to join us today. And Niels, as always, I thank you for your dedication and your commitment in helping us drive the messaging in terms of helping to create high performance IT teams. So with that in mind, I want to wish you a great day. Niels, thank you again. And for everyone, have a great rest of your day. Thank you, and I hope to see you again. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.